Hey guys, so today is Monday and it's Memorial Day that I'm filming this video, and it is also my boyfriend Patrick's 30th birthday. So I knew leading up to this day that it was going to be really difficult, and the past few days have been insanely difficult. I had filmed a video maybe like a week or so ago talking about my mental health and how I've been dealing with the grief and loss of my boyfriend. And at that time, I was actually in a better place mentally and emotionally. And then not long after that, it just took a turn for the worse. And I kind of wanted to talk about that because I think talking about grief is really important because I don't really know a lot of people who talk about it. And I have found pages on Instagram that have kind of a grief community that has been built. And I think that's amazing, and I think it should keep growing. And I think as May is still Mental Health Awareness Month, I think it's a good time to talk about this. Right now, I am drinking some tea, and this is actually Patrick's mug that he had given me. He and I bonded over our love of Marilyn Monroe, and that was one of the first things that actually attracted me to him was because I thought that was amazing that he loved Marilyn Monroe just as much as I did. And so he had this mug, and I was super jealous of it because I have a lot of Marilyn Monroe memorabilia, but I don't have any mugs. And so he was nice enough to give this to me, and I think it's really cool, and so I wanted to drink out of it today for him. And I'm also planning to watch one of his favorite movies, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, which is also one of my favorite movies. So I'm gonna do that today, and I'm just trying to kind of take it easy today. And it's also raining, and it's kind of interesting because the past couple days have been really nice weather, and then today it's just rainy and everything, so it feels like, of course, it's gonna be like that on his birthday, so kind of makes sense. And I wanted to talk about something that's been on my mind and something that's been affecting me a lot lately. So I know I've seen a writer who talks about grief. Her name is Devine, and I will link her Instagram and I'll link other pages associated with her in the description below. But she talks a lot about grief and wrote a book called It's Okay Not to Be Okay. And she is very honest about grief and the experience. And she has discussed how sleep is something that can be an incredible struggle for people who are grieving. For me, sleep has been one of the things that has been the biggest struggle for me with losing my boyfriend. And it's 3 months since he passed away. And obviously, right after he died, my sleep was gonna suffer. So I kind of knew that going in. I knew there were gonna be a lot of things that were gonna be difficult. Sleeping, eating, getting out of bed, basic functioning. I was kind of prepared that those things were gonna be difficult. I knew that. I've had mental health struggles in the past, so I know myself, and I knew that those things were going to suffer. I just knew that. And that's what happened. I've noticed recently that my anxiety has been honestly like through the roof, and I've dealt with anxiety before in the last few years, and I've noticed, I think it's probably because his birthday was coming up, that the last week or so has been pretty brutal, and I have been struggling with anxiety and sleep, and they have been really bad. So with my anxiety, I've just been on edge and very panicky and racing thoughts and everything for days and days and days on end, and it's all the time from the time I wake up, and then it's been a really bad combination with sleep, and I think they've kind of gone hand in hand. This is something that I don't think I've heard a lot of people talk about. Like I said, I've heard Devine talk about it, but I don't think it gets talked about enough, because when you think about it, sleep is so crucial to functioning, and it's something that's so important, obviously, for the brain and memory, learning, just everything connected to the brain. Sleep is crucial. And if you're not sleeping enough, if you're sleeping too much, everything else suffers. And your daily functioning suffers as a result of having sleep issues. And I have been struggling with not sleeping enough. I don't think it's been happening long enough and consistently enough for me to say that it's insomnia, but I have been severely struggling with falling asleep, staying asleep, sleeping. I am not sleeping a heck of a lot, and it doesn't matter if I'm working the next day, if I have a day off, if I have several days off, it doesn't matter. I am struggling to sleep. I have been since he passed, and even before he passed, when he was ill, I was struggling a lot with sleep, but I've noticed leading up to his birthday, it has been brutal, where it's, 3:30, 4:30 a.m., I'm not sleeping, and I'm exhausted because of the days previous of doing this, not going to sleep, and laying in bed for hours and hours and hours and hours and not sleeping. And I don't know what to do. I feel like I don't want to get in the habit of taking medication for it. I don't really know. I'm not going to knock other people who do, but for me personally, I just don't want to go down that road yet. And I did try to take some sleeping medication, and it didn't really work the way I would have liked to, because I still was awake. But then when I finally did fall asleep, when I woke up the next day, I was just insanely groggy, and I've also been dealing with a pretty bad depressive episode, I guess, as well, combined with all these things. So I think being really groggy and feeling just awful physically made my depression worse. And it also made my anxiety worse. So I just think it's a really bad combination, and I don't really want to get into medications right now. I just don't think that's going to be beneficial for me. I don't think that's going to be good, and I don't want to do that. But it's been really bad, where I think last night was an okay night. I think I went to sleep at about 3 or 3:30 maybe, and then the day previous, I think I'd gone to bed at about 4:30, 5 a.m., and then I was awake every hour or so, and then would spend a long time trying to get back to sleep. It's just been pretty brutal. But I had a dream, and I was accompanying Neve and Max on their online relationship mystery adventures, and I was the one to try to wrangle them, because I guess Neve and Max were wanting to go to a bunch of bars instead of trying to be on the case. And so I was like, no, you guys, we gotta solve the mystery. And so I was the hero in the dream, of course, trying to save the day. Sleep has been really bad. I think I'm making this video just because I think I need a place to put my little random ramblings and musings. For some reason, I haven't really been doing a lot of writing. I don't really know why. I think I'm honestly afraid to. For some reason, I think the way I express my grief is something that I'm struggling with. I feel like in the beginning, when I lost my boyfriend, I was kind of like, I want to handle this in a healthy way. I want to, read books and do yoga, and I want to write, and I want to be really open and honest with people, and I want to talk to people, and I want to go to grief counseling. And then as time went on, and as I had to go back to work and went back to an environment just in the outside world where nobody wanted to talk about him or ask about him, or I don't know. Not everybody was like that, but I did feel like, just in a general sense, like when you step back into the real world after suffering a horrible loss, and everybody's doing their thing, the world is turning, and it's like nothing has changed in the rest of the world, but your world is upside down, different, nothing is the same anymore. And it almost pisses you off. At least it makes me mad. It's like, why is everything the same? Why is everybody acting like nothing happened? And it's, I mean, I get it. Like, nobody, you know, sometimes people don't know, or sometimes people are too uncomfortable to talk about it. But it's something that kind of grates on my nerves, I guess, irrationally so, I think, because when I put it into perspective, I get it. I know. Not everyone has dealt with a loss. No one is experiencing loss in the same way I am. I get it. I get it. But it's something that happens with grief that is frustrating. That's something with grief that is really difficult to cope with. Going back into a world that is spinning like it always does, when your world has stopped or has turned upside down, is not the same, and you're not the same. You don't know how to cope with the loneliness, the emptiness, the confusion, the anger, the sadness, the depression, exhaustion, everything that goes along with grief, because it's something that I wasn't prepared for. Nobody told me about this. Nobody talked about it. I never understood it. I mean, I've had other losses, but for me, this is the one that is life-changing for me. It was one that I was unprepared for. It was one that is affecting me for the rest of my life. There's no question. And I am learning as I go, and it's a lifelong journey. I know it will be. I think I'm just honestly making this video for myself because, like I said, I kind of went on a tangent. Like I was saying, I haven't been writing, I haven't been doing yoga, and I think I've been avoiding those two things because I feel sometimes like I'm too afraid to do those things because I don't know what's gonna come up, and that can scare me. I feel like I've kind of gotten myself into a place of a little bit of avoidance where I don't want to go too far down the mindset of thinking about it because I don't know what's going to come up. And that scares me because I feel like with grief, there's a lot of things that come up that you don't want to face. You don't know how to face. A lot of the things that you're afraid that are going to come up are things that you can't resolve. Death is something that we don't know about. Death is one of those things where it's a mystery, and a lot of people interpret it in different ways, whether it's from a religious perspective, spiritual perspective, psychological perspective, scientific perspective. Death is a mystery because we don't know what happens. And I know that would cause a huge debate, of course, but to be real, I mean, whether you're an atheist or you're a devout Christian or Buddhist or whatever your religious or spiritual perspective is, to be real, we don't know. How can we know? We're not there. We're not there on the other side. If there is another side, we don't know. I think that's one of the things that's the most scary, is that you avoid those unanswerable questions. You can't answer them, so you avoid them. And I think that's what I've been doing. It's a lot of just avoidance, and I think it's catching up with me, and it's manifesting in anxiety, severe depression at times, and sleeplessness. And my brain tries to distract itself. I watch 15 episodes of Catfish until 3:30 in the morning. I go for walks. I try to make YouTube videos. And a lot of it is just avoidance. Avoiding tackling those really scary feelings and questions. I know that I'm going to have to get to a point where I accept the fact that these are unanswerable questions and that you can't change anything, you can't bring them back, and it sucks. It really sucks. I think the conclusion of this video would be that grief sucks, It is awful, but there are other people experiencing it too, and like I've said in other videos, I'm not going to know what you're going through in your grief, even if you're someone who knew Patrick and you lost him too. I don't know what you're going through because you had a different relationship with him. You have a different brain than I do. You have different coping skills than I do. You have a different history than I do. So you're going to experience grief differently than I will. And that's the case for everybody. So grief is something where we're all going to experience it someday, whether we want to accept it or not. It's something that universally 100% of the population will experience. Yet, we all experience it differently. So I think it's important to talk about because I want to get to a point where I am raising my voice and I am helping destigmatize mental health. And this is one of the topics I want to destigmatize is grief, because we don't talk about it. I have always been uncomfortable with grief, with mental health in general. I grew up wanting to suppress things, not wanting to talk about things. That was just how I grew up. I grew up not talking about this stuff, not wanting to talk about it. And now I'm really surprised that I'm talking to a camera about it and I'm going to upload this to the interwebs. I want to be accepting of my mental health, my emotional health, and I want to deal with those things in healthy ways. And I think part of that is trying to raise my voice and destigmatize mental health issues because there's so much stigma. And a lot of people don't even realize that they're causing stigma and perpetuating it. So I've been rambling for almost 20 minutes at this point, but I think I should probably end it here. And if this helped you in any way, that's great. If you are dealing with the loss of a loved one, my heart goes out to you. And I just want to let you know that you're not alone in experiencing grief. And I just want to be honest in what grief feels like for me. So I will leave links to helpful resources down in the description below. And if you don't follow me already, please subscribe to my channel. And I will leave links to my social media down in the description as well, so you can come follow me on there. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.